Hey guys, it's Ben here with the Half Court Heath podcast. Here with Arjun and Isaac will be here soon with us. But before we get into the action and before we get Isaac here and before we share our thoughts, I just got to talk about the merch. As usual, we got it so fresh, so clean. Arjun doesn't have his on.
Like, I don't have it on because it's in the laundry, but I was balling in it yesterday.
I haven't
I
watched.
love it.
I haven't watched this in like a month, but it's juju. It's juju for everything. But anyways, there's nothing else to say but to get into our first topic, which before we get into our debates, let's talk about our thoughts on that game 6. It was disgusting. Got to give our shout outs to the Lakers getting the NBA championship, and the disrespect in LeBron James is so real. It's truly disastrous. As a Hornets fan who thinks that Michael Jordan is the greatest player of all time, it is truly disgusting. The slander that LeBron James is getting for getting a Finals MVP.
I mean, never forget Skip. Dude, Skip said that it was hurting his legacy by getting a ring.
That was disgusting. No, it's seriously disgusting how much slander he's getting for winning Finals MVP and winning the finals. Like I went on Instagram and then there was that post on Bleacher Report. It's like, I want my damn respect. Like it was his quote, and then all the comments were like, well, you'll get my respect when you don't need good players on your team to win. Give me one good player ever who has won a championship without good players on his basketball team.
Look,
nobody.
Ben, let me get my take in. I think I'm with you 100%. We all know the job isn't truly finished and be done yet because LeBron has to come back home, and we know what he's going to do when he gets back home. LeBron is going to be in danger, but I mean, we got to give credit to the Heat.
Yeah, definitely.
Credit to where it's due. Jimmy Butler, you're amazing. I'm not a Heat fan at all. I don't like Heat fans at all. But you know what? That's amazing what they did. So good credits to them, LeBron and AD. I think it was people who say that it was a boring finals and that LeBron didn't have any competition don't understand.
That's the LeBron haters, man. It's the LeBron haters. And again, I think LeBron's number 2 of all time, and he really stuck his place being number 2 with this win. There's no debate for Kareem at this point. But you actually led me into what I think our first topic of the day should be. And it's, do you believe Jimmy Butler when he vows to win the Heat a championship in 2021? Actually, I'll start this off. I kind of believe it. Like from what I saw in these finals, it was a completely different Jimmy Butler from regular season Jimmy Butler, but it wasn't like the Jamal Murray different or like the TJ Warren different where they were just good because they were in the bubble with no fans. It was like Jimmy Butler's just mentality, like he completely locked in. Like we haven't seen him in the playoffs for a very, very long, or not a very long time. We just haven't seen him in the playoffs, especially we haven't seen him.
I mean, he's always been the role player around Derrick Rose.
Yeah, no, like the last time he was in the playoffs, besides the Timberwolves, where of course Cat was the first option because it's Karl-Anthony Towns. It was, and also that was their only playoff appearance was when right before we got traded for Lauri Markkanen and Zach LaVine on draft night, where he led the Bulls to 7 games against that 1-seeded Celtics team. I fully believe Jimmy Butler, especially with Miami being a number 1 trade and free agency target for most players, since, I mean, who doesn't want to live in South Beach, along with the fact that they have winning culture. That's what separates them from New York is not only are they a cool place to live, but it also has winning culture that people want to be in because they have Jimmy Butler and they have this team that just went to the finals. So you add Victor Oladipo, you add whoever, Van Vliet maybe, Harrell, one of those really good players, and then you can really build a championship team. And I think that they have a very, very good chance to make it to the championship next year. But Arjun, what do you think about this?
I'm with you on that, but it depends on how they play, really. I mean, do you think they can maintain the same level of – it depends on how they maintain – if they can maintain the same level of competitive – if they can have 6 guys averaging plus 10 points per game, then yeah, I believe him. And I believe him after what happened. But I don't – you're supposed to be confident. You're supposed to be confident. You're supposed to say stuff like that. Do I believe that he can do it? Yes. But do I believe the chances are high?
I think they have a very high chance to get back to that NBA Finals because, I mean, this boosted their confidence. It wasn't – and it's not like a fluke season like where you saw in 2015 those Hawks where they were like a really high-seeded team. This is a 4 seed. And a 4 seed, an underperforming 4 seed where you're like, okay, yeah, this team, they can consistently compete, especially with the fact that their roster is very, very young. The fact that they went that far and competed that well against LeBron James and Anthony Davis really, really proves something about their future. And I think they'll be contending for championships for years. And they're not my pick necessarily right now to win the championship next year, but I think they do have a very, very good chance to win that championship next year.
I think they're in their contending spot. But yeah, I like his confidence. You're supposed to be confident. I mean,
I'd put them in the odds to win a championship like the Celtics had going into last year. Like, they're not the number one contenders in the
really,
East.
like
They do have a really good
this
chance.
season that we in the bubble.
Yeah, no, like at the start of last season, the Celtics were like, okay, they're not better than the Bucks. They're like about the same as the Raptors, but they have a chance to win the title. Like that's generally what I think of the Heat for the going next season, especially if they sign players like Danilo Gallinari, really fill up that roster, maybe get Victor Oladipo, Giannis Antetokounmpo, whatever.
They have that depth. I mean,
you have lots of cap. I think they have the most cap of any team in the free agency. So I think this is really just wins going forward. I don't think this is a one and done team. I think they'll be doing a lot in the future.
Yeah, I think we're both on agreement with that. I just think that, in terms of overall chances to win a championship, I would put them definitely in my top 5 for teams that could win. But yeah, I don't want to say they're like have a high chance of winning the final.
Who do you have untouchable on that team?
Definitely like, Bam Adebayo.
Like I have Bam and Jimmy untouchable because like Jimmy is a surplus of value, but you're not going to get that back in trades. So like even if someone offered you a trade for Jimmy Butler, you're not going to get a good one. Like for Bam, at least you could get a good trade. Like Jimmy, you couldn't really get a good trade because people.
I don't know if I'd phrase Duncan Robinson in the untouchable area, but he's the guy that you should not throw away at all.
I would put Hero and Duncan in the I don't want to get rid of them, but if it means a superstar to put alongside these two, I'll do it. Like I wouldn't want to deal away Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson with their potential, but I mean if it gets somebody that upper echelons, then I'll do it with the snap of my finger.
Now, Ben, what are your thoughts on Tyler Hero's performance during the finals? Do you think it affects him in any way, or is it still like he's still going to be an absolute beast? Like he was putting up some pretty terrible numbers.
He's a rookie in the NBA Finals against LeBron James. What do you?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
He's going to be amazing. The fact that he put up what he put up throughout the playoffs is just enough for me to know that he's going to be a star one day, maybe even a superstar. He's going to be a great player in the NBA. He had some bad performances in the NBA Finals, but he also had some clutch performances. And in the rounds before, he scored 37 on Milwaukee in round 2.
On the Celtics, but yeah.
He's going to be a beast. Oh, it was on the Celtics? It was on the Celtics?
I know.
Exactly.
Don't have to remind me.
But yeah, so next we got to talk about the Knicks. Just going into our next topic. We got the Knicks have been reported to want to trade down from their pick at 8 if LaMelo isn't available, which he's suspected to be going number 1. What are your thoughts on this, Arjun?
I definitely don't think they should be trading for LaMelo. I don't think it's a bad idea to trade down because you don't really lose stuff as long as you don't give too much to trade down, which I feel like they will because of the Knicks. But
trading down meaning
my main point.
Trading down meaning trading down in the draft, going to like pick 16, not like that pick 1. Trading up is pick 1.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, yeah.
We welcome Isaac, by the way. Hey, Isaac.
Isaac, fresh from a shower.
But anyways, let's just restart from there. So the Knicks are wanting to move on from their pick at 8 if LaMelo isn't available at 8 and trade down in the draft to a later pick. What do you guys think on this? Arjun, carry on.
Okay. If you're targeting LaMelo, that we all know that's the Knicks thing to do. I would suspect they would take Cole Anthony or LaMelo, but really, what are you going to gain from going from pick 8 to like pick 16? Like you said, you're not going to gain much, and you're at a reasonably high pick to get a good player. I'm not saying they're going to be amazing. They're going to be solid. Yeah, that's a good position to get a good
But player. No, for the Knicks, is it really a good position? Like if you're the Knicks,
I know, but Ben, weigh the cost and benefits. Weigh the cost and benefits between what would you trade if you were a team that had the 16th pick? What would you ask the Knicks? Well, I mean, what do you think? What do you think you should give the Knicks to get their?
Well, I mean, not necessarily trading down, but also like if you're going to trade down for like 2 picks in the late first round. Don't just get 16th overall pick. That would just get you a failure. But I mean, I would want to trade that pick for a player if they really are trying to contend next season, because apparently they want to get Chris Paul, they want to get Victor Oladipo. Every offseason they want to get somebody, but they never do. But if they do want to contend, then I would say trade this 8th pick and trade it in a package for a star. but I wouldn't say trade down necessarily. But again, if LaMelo is their one option that they want and he's not available at 8 because he won't be available at 8, then go ahead, do whatever. I don't trust you because you're the New York Knicks, but that's their decision. Isaac, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I think, well, it's also really not a top-heavy draft. So trading, if you're not trying to get like a superstar or even just like an all-star on your team, an all-star caliber player, then trading down, like to later rounds to be able to, maybe they're giving you, like next year's pick, which is going to be a much better draft, then that's going to be a good move for them. But I think Cole Anthony is a good target because I really doubt that LaMelo is going to fall all the way to 8th. It's possible, but I highly doubt that. I think Cole Anthony could go around that time, and I think he would be a good player for their team. But if if they're not available, then they should definitely move down because it's really not a very good draft.
I'm not strong in them picking Cole Anthony. He would fit great in their score a lot of points and don't win anything system. But on a winning system, I would say if he's available, which I don't believe he will be, but if he is,
you could take him before 8.
No, I'm talking about somebody else. Then pick Killian Hayes. He has a lot of potential. He can do basically everything. He could fit well into a new system, especially if you get Chris Paul to mentor him, whoever you're getting, which I don't suspect they'll get anybody big. They'll just get old guys to large contracts. But I think
Isaac, wait one sec. Isaac, I'm going to ask you a quick follow-up question. What do you think, I'm going to ask both of you this question. If you were a team, if you were the Knicks and you wanted to trade down, what would be some potential trades and players you might want to go after?
Well, I think I would go after a star, but I would also go after, unless they're really going all in on winning now, which you never can trust the Knicks to. No,
but Isaac, you wouldn't get a star from trading down from picks.
Yeah,
you're talking about trading. Add that into the deal, not trade down. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade down. I would also they can picks for the next couple years is good. Like that's a good move because the next years are going to be much better drafts. So that would be a better move for them. Or
there are more top-heavy drafts, but I mean, if you're trading with the team that's downwards in the draft, you are getting this isn't the most top-heavy draft, but it's the deepest draft we've seen in a while. Where you can get a player. You could get a player like Isaac. You could get a player like Vernon Carey, or you could get a player like Trey Jones and Zeke Nahaji. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. Leonardo Balmaro. All those great guys that could fall very far in this draft that could end up being very, very quality role players, even if they're going mid-second round. That's the one benefit of this draft is like we don't know a common star that's going to go number 1. There's no huge top-heavy star in this draft, but there is, of course, the deepest draft we've seen in a while, in my opinion. But of course, we don't know until all that stuff goes down. But anyways, do you guys have anything else to say on this?
No, yeah, I do agree. Yeah, I agree. They could also, you can also trade like 8 for like 2 second-round picks. That would be good.
Like I don't want to, if I'm the Knicks, I don't want to move pick 8 unless I'm moving up in the draft or I'm trading for a star. But that's just my personal opinion. They can do whatever they want. But moving on to our next topic is actually something that I've really wanted. Well, Isaac and Arjun, you probably really want to talk about. This is not really an argument at all, but this is the Celtics offseason and our opinions on how it should go. Arjun, do you actually want to start this one off?
I actually do want to start this off. Let's pull up what I said. Now, I'm going to bring up a trade that I think would really benefit the Celtics. I know a lot of Celtics fans have been talking about this. We've been talking about trading Hayward because, he's not really contributing a lot. I love Hayward. He's got a great IQ. But I think maybe if we trade Gordon Hayward and pick 47, which is a second-round pick, for Miles Turner, I think that would be a great – because they have a hole in that center position. That's what we're looking at. So I think Miles Turner –
I'll let you explain the rest of your without interruptions, the rest of your offseason, but that seems like a little too much. Well, a little too much for the Celtics to give up. I think you're undermining Gordon Hayward's value, but
I know, but it's the contract. You're taking on a $32 million contract, so it does seem like you got to take that into account. But I think let's go on to the picks for the NBA draft. I think with pick 14, Aaron Nesmith, whatever you say it. He's a terrific shooter. He doesn't have any bust potential. I think he'd be a great scoring punch coming off the Celtics bench. And then there's Zeke Nnaji.
You just say Zeke. Yes. He's from Gonzaga, right?
Zeke, my man Zeke. I think he's from Arizona. Arizona. Yeah. He's a really good big man, great rebounder. He would complement. I think he would really complement the play style with Kemba with the screen roll, and he would just be a good interior presence. And then pick 30, I would go with the guy named Elijah Hughes. Now he was a terrific scorer back in Syracuse in college. He's one of those great college players. So he may be good, he may not be great, but I think he's worth the chance.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say my quick free agent stuff. I want to keep this quick so you guys can get in your picks. But I think Gordon Hayward should accept his player option,
of course,
and because he's gonna accept it. It's a lot of money.
That's a guarantee.
All that for us to trade him though. But and then Enes Kanter, please decline your player option. I don't want him back. Brad Wanamaker is the reason why the Celtics are not as good. He's a terrible backup point guard. Tremont Waters was actually the G League Rookie of the Year, so definitely re-sign him. Semi Ojeleye, he's been on the Celtics for too long. He hasn't done anything. Taco, do I need to really say anything? We will re-sign him.
Yeah, and then what's your
one? I'm going to say one signing. Wait 1 second. One more thing. I think that we should sign free agent Avery Bradley. He'd be a great defensive player under Brad Stevens' system and a great
Bradley back.
All right. So I'm just going to make mine brief so that Isaac can get his in and we can move on to our other topics. But I took the unconventional route in the Celtics offseason. I'm not a Celtics fan. You guys are Celtics fans, so you guys could think this is total bullshit. But this is just personally what I think they should do with their offseason. This is one of the many routes that I have planned out for them. There's a lot of ways they can go with this roster. But I know that they just have to make some sort of severe change because there's nothing – they have a good team, but they're really just not over the hump to get in that finals. And even if they do get in that finals, especially with this stacked East and West, I don't see them winning anything with this current roster. So they really need to make a move. And the one big move you can make to also clear up cap space is to trade Gordon Hayward. So of course that's what Arjun said. So the two trades that I'll want to make before I get into the draft and the free agency is I would want to trade Gordon Hayward, Daniel Tice, and pick 47 for TJ Warren and Miles Turner. This goes back to you undermining what I thought was Gordon Hayward's value since he might be overpaid, but the Pacers have that room if they give up those contracts. And also Gordon Hayward as the fourth best option on a competing team in the East was putting up 20 points per game, and he was doing it very efficiently. He was very greatly impacting this team, but they also get a center to replace Miles Turner's gap in the middle. And Gordon Hayward, putting him as this first or second option, depending on if Victor Oladipo is still there, he could thrive there. And you also get a pick. But also my other trade would be pick 14, pick 26, and pick 30 for pick 8 from the Knicks. Speaking of them trading down, if you're the Celtics and you can trade these 3 picks, which I know seems wrong, but they've been drafting. The Celtics have been drafting young the past 3 years. And
who would you get for the 8th pick?
And it really hasn't seemed. I'll get into that, but. Well, the Knicks have the 8th pick, but the Celtics really, their plan of drafting these young guys late in the first round really hasn't seemed to have been working that much and really changing up the plan, which I know that your boy Danny Ainge hates, but I think it's the smart move. But then going into the draft, I think at pick 8, you pick Tyrese Halliburton to be your backup point guard. He would be a very good addition to this team. He's a good scorer, and he's going to be a top 10 pick for a reason. You trade up with the Knicks because they said they want to trade down. But then with that, you have, I think, 3 open roster spots because going into my player option stuff, of course, Gordon Hayward accepts his and he gets traded. I think Ennis is going to decline this. And then I let Brad, Tremont Waters, and Semi Ojeleye walk, and I re-signed Taco Fall. But then for my
No. You can't let Tremont Waters walk, but I'll talk about that.
I can absolutely let Tremont Waters walk. But going into the roster, I let that team – it's mostly the same, but then you add in the free agency period, you add Avery Bradley and you add Paul Millsap. Paul Millsap, I feel like you pick him up on the mid-level exception, $5 million, and he could be a really, really big impact for this team. You get that Al Horford effect where not exactly what Al Horford was, but a very efficient shooting big from outside who can also push Tatum back to the 3 where I think he thrives instead of the power forward position, which is where he was forced this year because Al Horford left. And you push Jaylen Brown back to the 2. So then Marcus Smart can come off your bench. And, of course, you have –
you'd have TJ Warren at the – but where would you have TJ Warren?
Well, yeah, TJ Warren also comes off the bench. You have an elite bench at this point. You have Marcus Smart at the 2. You have TJ Warren at the 3. You have Halliburton. You also have Avery Bradley's the other pickup. I agree with you on that one. And that's my team for this team. And I feel like that's the best scenario for them. But again, I made a ton of scenarios, and I trust Danny Ainge to do whatever he can do. He's a great GM. Isaac, what do you have to say on this?
Yeah. So I think that's a great scenario. Both of you guys gave good scenarios. I also trust Danny Ainge because we're still reaping the benefits of trades that he's made in the past. So we've got a lot of assets we can deal. The interesting thing about Gordon Hayward is that I don't know if there's a team that's going to want to pick up his contract that will be able to give the Celtics something that's equal to Gordon Hayward, because Arjun, you did devalue Gordon Hayward. He really is a good player. You saw the effect he had when he came back for the Celtics. They didn't win, but you saw the effect that he had. And so if you can't get it, would be really good to get Gordon Hayward's contract out of the way so you could pick up someone like Paul Millsap on a smaller deal, or
they already can anyways if they don't deal him.
Yeah, but you know what? At this point, unless you have a really promising trade, which I would love Danny Ainge to do, I think they're probably going to keep Gordon Hayward because his contract, teams do not want to pick up that contract. But that would be a great scenario, what Ben said. Mm-hmm. The center position is so weird for the Celtics because we have so many developing guys on our bench that are playing at center, because you've like Robert Williams, who showed a lot of potential in the playoffs, Grant Williams, who plays like power forward or center, Tice, and Cantor. And then they're thinking of picking up more centers. So I think if you're going to go all in on the center position and get a very good center, you have to deal at least one or two of those guys.
Well, I mean, most of your centers are free off season.
Yeah, you can't develop a guy like Robert Williams, who I think is going to have a lot of talent in the future, and then also interject with a better center. That's totally going to stunt his growth as a player. I think you have to keep Tremont Waters. He's an incredible talent. He's showing a lot of talent in the G League. Semi Ojeleye and Brad Wanamaker, if they leave, I will celebrate. I mean, there's nothing. They're really not bringing anything to the team. They're just taking up space in the roster. I think
he's a solid defender.
Yeah, let's get on to more.
Yeah, I have faith in Danny. I have faith in Danny Ainge, and I think they have to be decisive. They've been really indecisive on the center position. They've got to be decisive. They've got to choose which way they're going, like who they're going to develop. Also, really quickly, last thing, Grant Williams, lock him down. Do not let that man leave. He's like Marcus Smart. He's got a lot of heart. He's a ton of potential for the Celtics off the bench. So that's
good. You have some good points there, Isaac. But let's move on to a more angry topic, I would say, but we can also have a good discussion here. So there's a lot of stuff brewing in the next years of the NBA. People have been talking about it. There's a ton of new teams that are coming back into the equation because we missed a lot of players due to injury. But for the next season, who is the team to beat out of the East? I'll actually start this one off, but I think that you might say the Bucks because they were the 1 seed, and I think that's the most consensus pick that people have. But I've never viewed the Bucks as the team to beat in the East because they've never won. They've never made it out of the East. I think the current team technically to beat is the Miami Heat because they made it out of the East. But I think the team that really has the best chance to get out of the East, in my opinion, if at full capacity, then I have the Brooklyn Nets getting out of the East. Because, of course, that's the Brooklyn Nets. They have KD, they have Kyrie, and they have a full loaded bench and other players in their starting lineup. But I think that the team to beat has to be the Miami Heat because they just made it to the NBA Finals. But Isaac, what do you think about this?
Yeah, the Nets, the Raptors also. And yeah, the East is going to be really good next year. But also, I mean, yeah, it's Miami at this point because they've came out of the East last year. The Nets are going to have to prove by the time of the playoffs if they can get their chemistry right. If they can, they're definitely the team to beat. But also pivoting a little bit to talk about the Bucks in the East, this is going to be a very crucial year for them. They have to be the team to beat next year. But the East has so many teams that are like in a transition phase where they're almost there, but we don't know if they're going to be there yet. Like Philly, how are they going to do with Doc Rivers? Like the Nets, how are they going to do with chemistry? The Celtics, what moves can they make? The Bucks, can they be successful in the playoffs? The Raptors, can they make it farther in the playoffs without Kawhi?
I don't think that chemistry is the issue for the Nets necessarily. I think that the issue is necessarily just, will KD be the same? And like, will Kyrie play well alongside KD and DeAndre Jordan, which of course they will play great.
But the East has so many questions around them. Even Miami has questions.
But yeah, let's stay on topic. Arjun, who do you think is the team to beat out of the East next offseason?
I'm totally with Isaac in the fact that this is a little too early to ask that question because there's so many potential moves you can make. So, what I'm gonna go with right now is I'm gonna go with probably I think the consensus right now is the Miami Heat, but the team I think will be the team to beat. Don't call me biased, but I think it's gonna be the Boston Celtics. They're gonna be the team to beat by the time next season rolls around. Because you guys talked about if Danny Ainge can play his cards right. I think he can play his cards right. And I'm taking a chance here. I'm saying I think he can play his cards right. I might be wrong. We've made mistakes. We've been wrong on this podcast before. But I'm letting you know, if the Celtics play their cards right, they get a good center. I can see them cruising through this regular season. They can cruise. This young talent between Brown and Tatum has the ceiling. The ceiling is the roof for them. They have an amazing talent. But look,
I don't see that.
I'm gonna keep going. I want to keep going for a little bit more. I think that the Celtics can beat every single team in the East. They have the capability to beat them, including the Heat. But right now, the Heat are the team to beat. Right now.
Yes, I agree with that. But also, I think that like they have to be labeled the team to beat because they are the team that escaped the East. But I think the team that like everybody's going to be attacking because they are the team that's in the spotlight is the Brooklyn Nets because of the players on that team. Yeah. They have two of the most talented players in the NBA's history. I mean, so of course that's going to be the team to beat, but the team to actually beat because they made it out of the East last year was the Miami Heat. I have actually a very good topic for us next if you guys don't have anything else to say about this. So it's rank these duos. In your opinion, we can debate this after everybody gets their point in. So Kawhi and PG, Russ and Harden, and Middleton and Giannis. You can rank it off anything. Isaac, you start us off.
Yeah, I really don't know what to say. I mean, all of these duos have failed in the playoffs last year. I would say in the regular season, even though they definitely don't have the most talent by far, that Giannis and Middleton were the best duo in the regular season. They just played together the best. They had the best record in the regular season. All of them did pretty equally shitty in the playoffs. All of them. Yeah. And I think with the most potential is probably Russ and Harden, but I don't think they're ever going to get there. I don't think they're ever going to get to their. Hold on a second.
Yeah, let me get his point in. But
I think because
generally
they are both former MVPs. All right, they put up crazy numbers. They have the most potential. I don't think they will ever get there because I just don't think they play well together as a duo. They have the most potential. But Kawhi and Paul George are going to be the best in the future, is what I'm saying.
All right, give me your ranking of the three. Give me your official ranking. Rank them 1 to 3.
Oh God!
Hurry up.
I can start if you want.
Go ahead. I honestly don't know.
I'll start, Ben.
All right.
I'll be quick. But I just want to comment off something, Isaac, you said. I think you're confusing potential with pure talent because the Harden and Westbrook could have been the best duo because they're just absolutely they're former MVPs. But potential is the future, and I don't think they have a future. But I'll get mine in quickly. I do agree with you on the Bucks. I think the Bucks have the most potential and just are the best overall duo. And I mean, I think they have a really bright future, and they've shown it. They've shown it this season and last season. My rankings are: I think I got the Giannis and Middleton. Then I would have Kawhi and PG. I still haven't given up hope on that duo. I think they're a great regular season duo. And then Russ and Harden, who did not play well. They didn't fit during the regular season.
All right.
I would agree with that.
Isaac. So I think both of you guys made valid points. But to deconstruct both of your arguments, because I disagree with both of you on who's number one, I think the consensus number 3 here is obviously the Rockets duo, Russ and Harden. Because you have to look at it in 3 ways. You have to look at it in team impact. You have to look at it in total talent. And you have to look at if they actually win anything or not. So when you look at, of course, you look at team impact first. Then when you look at team impact in like the duos, you look at their net points. That's what I looked at. I went on Basketball Reference. I went on stathead.com and I looked at net points for the duos. And I didn't put it 48 minutes, but Then it goes like not Russ and Harden, Giannis and Middleton, and Kawhi and PG are right there at the top. And then at 44th of the best duos in the league, you have Russ and Harden net points. Net points is points scored subtracted by points allowed. And then you look at, moving aside from that, I think that like you can put that either way. But then when you look at talent, obviously talent goes to the Rockets. No, and there's no debate that the talent clearly goes to the Rockets because you look at the talent, you have 2 MVPs, but you also look at the talent gap because when it comes into a duo, which is the thing I really debate about, is when it's a duo, you have to have players that are like near the same level and they complement each other. And when it comes to duos that are on the same level, you have 2 players that are
not exactly.
They're not the same level, but they're 2 MVPs. They're the closest of the 3 duos to the same level because you have Kawhi's like a top 3 player in the NBA, debatably. Paul George is top 15, top 20. And then you look at, of course, Giannis and Middleton are a huge gap. But then that's why the talent goes to the Rockets. But of course, they're the last in impact. But when it comes to winning, I think that this the duo that wins the most is, of course, none of these duos have won, but I think that is the Clippers because the Clippers duo, I would like to say they just have the most potential to win because these players play well together. And of course, Paul George has had his playoff flukes, but we don't see Kawhi Leonard blow 3-1 leads. We don't see Kawhi Leonard score 14 points in playoff games. That was a fluke, in my opinion. That was a complete fluke. I don't think that's ever going to happen again where you see a player. I don't see Kawhi Leonard blowing 3-1 leads to the Nuggets. I don't see him doing that type of stuff. He's going to continue to win. This year was a fluke. Of course, the chemistry was off, like Isaac has said in the past, but I think that Giannis and Middleton they've both been in trade talks around the internet and around the world and around the NBA. And of course, Russ and Harden aren't going to win shit because they have a terrible team impact. They can't really play together. They just have a lot of talent. They sell seats, but that's really
all right. Ben, you talked for a good amount.
Yeah, no,
a good amount of talking.
My official rankings. So I would go Kawhi and PG number 1, Giannis and Middleton number 2, and Russ and Harden number 3. And I don't think there's any other space for that, but number 1 and 2 are kind of debatable.
All right. No,
I think that's.
Wait, Isaac. Can I go first?
Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. Thanks. First of all, you mentioned winning. We're not talking about potential for winning. We're talking about the best duos right now. We're not talking about potential for winning. We're not talking about talent. We're talking about the best duo. And the way I see it, winning, the Bucks have done it. The Bucks have the best. They have the best series. I mean, they have the best. They had the best record last year.
Regular season. That has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, it does. It's the record for the regular season. That's winning. What do you mean? I mean, it has to do with everything.
Winning in the regular season. Then they got bounced by the Heat. Last year,
we're not talking about the playoffs. We're talking about the best duo in the regular season is 82 games. Playoffs are only like 14 games.
But the playoffs are more important.
No, I get it. But wait. Okay, I get your point. But I think that point is not enough to say that the Clippers. If you want to talk about playoff winning, we can talk about the playoff winning. The Clippers blew a 3-1 lead to the Nuggets. We're not talking about what happens next year. We're talking about what happened this year.
We're talking about the one player, the one player on the list who's won a championship paired alongside another player. This was a fluke, a total fluke. This is not going to happen again.
We're not talking about past achievements. We're talking about who's a better duo. I'm going to get into my stuff now. The combined usage rate for Giannis and Middleton is about 62%. They make up 62% of their team in terms of usage. Now, this team right here, I think they complement each other the best. You said skill gap is a big factor in how well duos work out. I think that's completely false because they have a large skill gap. But guess what? They complement each other. It's amazing.
Jordan and Pippen had a big skill gap, and they were probably one of the best duos ever. So.
Yeah,
but considering it like a duo, but also the skill gap wasn't like as much like when it goes to players in the league where Pippen was like 5 in the league. Like Pippen was like top 5.
Okay, yeah. Okay, wait. I'm going to keep going.
The best players in the league.
Look, every time Giannis, the reason why they fit so well together is because Giannis can get double team, triple team every time. And when we want to know what he does, he always passes it out to Chris Middleton, hit his 3. Giannis is a 34% rate of assisting over 100 possessions. They have terrific chemistry. That's why they've been winning so many games in the regular season because they're a terrific duo.
I don't give a flying fuck about the regular season, Arshu, and I'm sorry to say
that's what I'm talking. That's what
okay.
It's 82 games. 82
All right.
games.
Hold on.
82 games that make up the entire season. That's how we determine who's a better duo.
I think I'm actually not mad at either of your arguments. I think they're both fine, but okay, Ben, I don't think this is gonna happen again with the Clippers. I
Yes.
don't. I wouldn't call it a fluke though. I think it makes perfect sense. It wasn't just an accident. It was because they didn't play together in the regular season.
Yeah,
Which goes back to what you said. I don't think this is going to happen again. With the most potential, I think it's by far Kawhi and Paul George. Kawhi and Paul George.
But we're not talking about potential, though. That's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about duo.
I mean, okay, it's
part of the debate.
Really a toss up. It's a toss up because both of them. Yeah, I mean, the last year, Kawhi and Paul George were probably a worse duo. They just didn't play together in the regular season at all, and in the postseason, they played pretty bad as a duo. So, and so did Middleton and Giannis. They also played very bad. But so that's why I think you have to look to the future, and I think Kawhi and Paul George have the best future. But I'm not mad at picking Chris Middleton and Giannis because they're a great duo as well.
Why do they have the best? Wait, but wouldn't you say how did the bunch of they're both 30 years old? They're both an aging Clippers team
because they're both because it's about winning right now, and that's what they can do. They're both good defenders. They have to.
But we weren't talking about right now. We were talking about the future
games.
We were talking about the future, Isaac.
Yeah, for the future, if Kawhi can play more regular season games and actually get some playing time with Paul George, they can be a great duo. But they just didn't have that.
Ben,
all right.
Ben, you said something. You said something earlier. You said you didn't care you didn't give a single damn about the regular season. What do you care about?
I care about the playoffs, and there's one player on this list who has won a title, and that's Kawhi Leonard.
That's just one ring. One ring cancels out a terrific season.
Actually, it's two.
Well, yeah, I mean, Giannis has had multiple incredible seasons, but he's never won anything. So that's why, and I mean, Middleton has underperformed in the playoffs, but this is the one year that Kawhi has really been bad in the playoffs, and he wasn't really bad the entire time. It was just bad in those little games.
And we're not talking about Kawhi. We're talking about Paul George and Kawhi. That's why they're not the greatest.
Yeah, but Kawhi is what
duo.
this duo. Both of them. We're not talking about Paul George himself. And I think that's the same thing. You can say that you have to talk about Giannis and Middleton. Middleton's really inconsistent. Middleton's a good regular season player, but a bad playoff performer. But yeah, I think that's
how he had a couple of bad games in the playoffs. If you look statistically, he's been a solid playoff performer.
Well, as a duo, both of those duos have been pretty bad this year. They both all four of the individual players each had their bad games.
How? Wait. How was actually I think that's a misconception because the Bucks didn't play that. They weren't that bad. The Heat were just better. The Heat just dominated them. Giannis was still putting up insane numbers. He put up like 36 and 14, and they still lost. So I wouldn't say they played poorly.
Yeah, so if they still lost, if they put up big numbers, that.
All right, guys. Let's move on to our next topic. We got which team is the biggest threat to take down the Lakers next season, and are they the team to beat for the next coming season? Actually, I'll take this one off. They're obviously the team to take down. They have two of the top three players in the NBA. I would say AD is top three with what we've seen in recency. But I think that they are clearly the team to beat. But who is the most capable to take them down? I would say most capable is Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and those Nets of theirs. But I think that they are not the most consistent pick. I don't know how I'm wording that. But like they're very risky. Or you look at KD, there's only been one player who's really played well after an Achilles injury. And KD's missed time. KD missed an entire season. So I mean, it even took down Kobe's career completely. Like Kobe had a complete meltdown. Not complete, but like he wasn't his same self after his Achilles injury.
Kobe crashed a little bit.
But that's terrible.
He got old too.
But when you look at Achilles injuries, that's why KD's so risky. I don't doubt that he's going to be good. That's why I say they are the biggest threat to take down the Lakers next season, because that's KD and Kyrie Irving. Of course, they're going to be a big threat to take down that big duo, because that is the two of the most, say, top 10 talented players in NBA history. I mean, you could put them anywhere on that list. But I think they're the most likely to take them down. You could say if the Bucks restructure, you could put them in that same debate. I don't see them taking them down if they don't restructure their roster. But The Clippers, of course, because Kawhi Leonard's not going to do that again. I feel like Paul George is going to have a big playoff performance next season. I just have that feeling that he'll finally get out of that slump because he was a very good playoff performer before his big injury, and he's destined for a good playoff performance soon. But generally, I don't have a consensus pick, but I think it completely goes down to how the Nets play together. But Arjun, what do you think about this?
I think this might be a little bit of a hot take, but I think that the Warriors have the best chance. I think that the Warriors have just been a proven kryptonite for LeBron. Not saying that I mean, we all know LeBron had a terrible team when he was going up against the Warriors with the Cavs, but I mean, I'm just saying that they've been a proven kryptonite for LeBron, and they've been his weakness. And we've been underestimating the impact that a Curry and Clay shooting duo can have, and we've seen it before. We've seen what happened, but we kind of forgot about it because those two got injured. I think that their shooting, they picked up Andrew Wiggins. They have some good pieces. I think that if they come back 100%, all their players come back 100%, they will be the biggest threat for the Lakers.
All right.
Yeah. Also, people have forgotten about Steph Curry, and also back with think about it. He didn't play at all last season. He's got something to prove. Yeah,
people were saying that Dame was the best shooter in the NBA.
Dude, totally. Steph is going to come back.
Before you get into your point, I just have to say something about you saying that the Warriors are the biggest threat, because even Steve Kerr himself said that this roster isn't NBA ready. And I mean, when you look at it, of course you have Steph, who's played about 12 games last season, or if even, did he play like 5 games before the season got canceled? And then you've got Clay, who hasn't played since the finals game 6 of 2019.
That's why I said 100%.
Draymond Green is like, no, Isaac. So Draymond Green is about like 50% of his old self. I don't think this roster has a very good chance to take down the Lakers at all.
Okay, Ben, let Isaac let Isaac get his taken, and then you can say.
All right, sure.
Yeah, I think the Warriors are up there. They're very questionable, but the Nets are almost not as questionable, but they're also very questionable because the Nets are so top heavy. So those guys both have to be 100 or 80% if they're coming back to beat the Lakers, and if they're not all the way there, then they just can't do it. I think those 3 teams, the Clippers, the Warriors, and the Nets right now, are the biggest threat for the Lakers. I think the Clippers are probably have the most reliability in terms of their roster as a whole, but they all have questions around them. The Nets have questions about, can their bench fit in well? You have to talk about that, because how is their bench going to fit in with those 2 guys? And I think KD and Kyrie have the same mindset. They're really good friends together. They haven't liked some of the teammates they played with in the past. So I think, you've heard the comments that Kyrie said, no matter how crazy they are, I think they're going to play well together as a duo. We'll see how Steve Nash does, but you're looking at Clippers head coach. How is that going to work? You're looking at the questions you talked about with the Warriors. So all of the teams have all these questions surrounding them. The Lakers also have some questions too, because it seemed like this year the Lakers were just tacking on pieces to their roster just to try to get over the edge to win the finals, like J.R. Smith and Dion Waiters, who didn't actually, Rondo is probably
just get back to
Isaac, what's your final team?
What's your team?
I would take the Clippers. I think they're the most reliable. The Nets, if the Nets get to the place they want to be, it's totally the Nets, but they just have the most questions.
All right, no, there's so much wrong with what you said, Isaac. I can't go on with you talking like this. So first of all, the Clippers. The Clippers, I love the Clippers. I love their odds next season, but they're not at all the most reliable team of this list. They have the players. I mean, Kawhi and PG. I believe Kawhi will have a bounce back, but who knows? I'm just a dude who's recording podcasts. I don't know if he's going to have a bounce back next playoffs. Like, I don't know what's going to happen there. You got to look at the Clippers. Like, they are really inconsistent. And they also said that Kawhi is the only person on that team who's untouchable. They could be moving Paul George. They want to move basically that whole roster to build a team completely around Kawhi Leonard. And that's going to be a completely brand new team. You talked about chemistry. That's going to be bad chemistry if you ask me. But then you talked about the Nets. You asked, how are they going to fit in with these players? They're going to play a damn bench role is what they're going to do. They're going to play on the bench. Spencer Dinwiddie playing bench role. Hey, Isaac. So he's been playing the bench role his entire career. You look at DeAndre Jordan will be starting, and then you have either Allen playing power forward or coming off the bench. He'll be one of the most lethal bench centers in the league. I mean, you have an incredible bench. You have maybe the deepest team in the NBA, like regarding maybe the Heat. Like, I don't know. Like, you look at this team's bench and you say that team isn't debatably one of the best benches in the NBA. And I mean, they also have Karis LeVert. They have a very talented team. But then going back to the Warriors, just to finish off my point, the Warriors are not at all game ready. They have Andrew Wiggins starting, which is a huge defensive liability. You have Steph Curry starting, huge defensive liability. They're trying to go.
Has it been a problem in the future? Has it been a problem in the past?
Well, no, but Andrew Wiggins is a part of the equation. That's the new thing. It's Andrew Wiggins is a part of the equation. And I hate Andrew Wiggins, especially on this roster. If there was a team where they had great defenders around him, he could be great on that system. But no, that's not going to fit well. They need to completely restructure the roster. But even if they do, you have Stephen Curry is going to be the same Stephen Curry. I can say that. I think he can be an MVP candidate next year. There's a good chance he wins the MVP. But when you look at Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, I believe, will be fully healthy, but there's a really good chance that he's not, and he's not the same Klay Thompson. Maybe he's a 15-point per game Klay Thompson. And you look at Draymond Green. When's the last time Draymond Green averaged more than 10 points, Arjun? When's the last time? Was it 2 years ago? If you asked me in 2016 if the Warriors could beat this Lakers team, then I would say yes. But I don't think they can.
Do you realize that scoring hasn't been Draymond's thing? I'm going to say one thing. It'll take like 10 seconds. Draymond has not been a scorer. That's what makes him so. It's not what makes him so deadly.
Generally,
his game is more than scoring. His game is the fact that he's such a great defensive player. Now, Isaac, go ahead.
At their best, the Nets are probably by far the best team in the league. They're super deep. But look at this. The guys that started when Kyrie Irving was injured and he wasn't playing last year, how good did Karis LeVert play? How good did Spencer Dinwiddie play? This reminds me a little bit of a kind of situation like Boston where Kyrie Irving came in and Jason Tatum played really well and Jaylen Brown played really well and Kyrie Irving came in and he took away that role for them, but it's going to be even bigger. If they can accept a role on the bench, if they can, this is undoubtedly the best team in the NBA. But those guys balled out last year. I mean, Karis LeVert was scoring like 50 points in many games. He balled out. And then he's going to have a smaller bench role. So if he can accept that, which is hard to do when you played so well starting in the last season, if he can, they're probably the best team in the NBA. But if he can't, which I can imagine that he wouldn't want to come off of the bench.
Yeah, you're asking pointless questions, Isaac. You're asking questions that have already been answered. When we had D'Angelo Russell,
these guys were
D'Angelo Russell
coming off of the bench.
When Russell was on the roster, he was the star point guard, and they had to accept a lesser role, and that team thrived. They were the 6th seed.
But what is it different? They have the Kyrie now.
They came in and balled out last year starting. You can imagine they probably want to start again. I'm just saying there are a lot of questions. Also,
they are starting again.
With Steve Nash, how is he going to be as a coach? I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying there are a lot of questions around them. Is KD full health? Kyrie was injured last season. Can he be at full health? There's a ton of questions surrounding the Nets right now.
You're pretending like Karis LeVert can't play small forward, where you have KD who's 7 feet tall at power forward. You have DeAndre Jordan as center, and you have also players like Lou Will who accept the 6-man role because you still get the same amount of minutes. It's not about the
I don't think he's talking about position. He's not talking about position.
Spencer Dinwiddie
he's talking about just accepting he's talking about just using past references where Kyrie took away the spotlight from other smaller players and that affected the chemistry. That's what he's bringing.
When players
affect chemistry because the guy that would be coming off the bench, the guy out of those guys that you named who would be coming off the bench would be Spencer Dinwiddie, and he's been in the top 3 for 6-man of the year multiple times. Yeah, so it's really not a problem.
All I'm saying is a lot of these guys balled out starting last year, and I think it's a hard transition to be on the bench for them. If they can make that transition, they will be the best team in the NBA. There's just a lot of questions surrounding them right now.
I don't know if that'll affect their. I mean, I think it'll affect. I don't think their chemistry. There's a lot of questions to be asked about it, but I think that the Nets still have. I mean, we still looking at the amount of talent they have. Chemistry won't have a big. I don't think it's gonna be the same with the Celtics because this team has probably the two people in the top 5. section for the most skilled guys in the NBA.
You're forgetting this is the first time, and I'll end this off. We'll go to our next topic after this, but this is the first time in Kyrie's career that he's been in the place that he's chosen. He was drafted to Cleveland, and then he didn't want to be in Cleveland. They traded him to Boston. He didn't want to be in Boston, so then he moved on to Brooklyn. Now he's picked where he wants to be. He's with his best friends, and he's playing basketball with a deep roster. And I feel like with Steve Nash being there as an influence, I feel like this team is undoubtedly just unbeatable if LeBron James isn't playing at an MVP level, which I think he will, but I think they'll clash very well in the finals. But let's move on to our next topic. We got give us one preseason, like our preseason sleeper team for the 2021 season. And that could be making the championship. Arjun, give your answer to this.
I don't know if you guys have forgotten, but I haven't. I have not forgotten about the Bubble Suns. Not forgotten about the Bubble Suns. This team was actually pretty red hot when they started out the season last year, but DeAndre Ayton had some problems. I think I don't know what some drug thing, but he was suspended for 25 games. That kind of ruined the team, and the team never really recovered. But I think this is a team that's gonna be. I think that they're gonna be a really solid team. They are a sleeper. People have forgot about them. Isaac, what's your take?
I was going to say the Suns. I'll throw out two teams for you, the Pelicans and the Mavs. I think those are two teams that can both definitely make the playoffs and also make it far. Zion.
Pelicans?
I don't think those are sleeper teams though. I think everybody knows those teams' capability.
Yeah, I just think they're going to have big transition. I don't know. I was going to say the Suns. I don't really know. I think there's teams that can lift themselves out of not being in the playoffs, like possibly the Kings.
Wait, but Isaac, why the Pelicans? And like, can you give reasoning for?
Yeah, give a reasoning.
The Pelicans or the Mavs? I just want to know.
Zion.
No, because I'm agreeing with you.
Like,
I agree.
That's not a casual reason.
Zion playing a full season on that team.
But we don't even know if that'll happen. But anyways, I think that my sleeper team to make the playoffs. I don't want to say the Hawks because I don't like Trae Young. I don't think he impacts his team that well. But I mean, depending on the moves, I've heard that they're skeptical to make the moves for either Brandon Ingram or Gordon Hayward. That's what I've heard. And I mean, those would be great moves. And I've heard they have picked 5 or 6. They could pick somebody great there, depending on the development of DeAndre Hunter and Cam Reddish. But my final sleeper, I would say the Suns are a playoff sleeper, obviously, but I think they'll be more like a 5 seed at their best if they play at their best. But my true sleeper to go deep in the West is the Portland Trailblazers. I mean, I would hope that the front office there is like, okay, we have a very legitimate roster. So if we retouch this team, so we have defense on it when we're fully healthy, then this team can go deep in the West and maybe win a championship. I feel like they or the Sixers are my my title contending sleepers per se. Like, I think that the Sixers are more of a risk because I'm fully depending on their front office to change that roster completely. But I think that the Trailblazers, because you forget that before their injury-packed year last year, where they were the 8th seed against the Lakers, which they took that very impressive game away from them. I'm going
to ask you a question.
What?
Do you think they should re-sign Whiteside? And if no, or following on that, who are some defensive players you think they should target?
I think you could either sign Whiteside or you could try to sign and trade him. I don't want to let him walk. I want to at least get some value.
No, he's a free agent.
Yeah, no, sign and trade. Yeah, I think because he could be a good fit there, but also you doubt his work ethic, you doubt everything about him. He's a very risky player to be having on your team if you want to contend, and they don't really have much room for risk. But generally, those are my 2 teams that are sleepers to contend for titles next year. But let's get on to our last topic of the day, which is Jimmy or Kawhi. Which player had the more impressive?
We already had this topic, Ben.
No, we didn't. We didn't post the episode. But Jimmy or Kawhi, who had the more impressive playoff run? I would say this is Jimmy Butler, and you might call it recency bias, but I don't think this is enough span between the 2 playoff runs to call it recency bias. I think that also Jimmy Butler was on a worse team in the finals, playing better basketball, because in the finals, I think if you go in the entire length of the playoffs, when you look at what Kawhi did in the first, second Eastern Conference finals, then it's Kawhi Leonard because he was that team in the first 3 rounds. He was the reason they got there, and he was majority reason that they won the NBA Finals. But A, they were playing a very depleted Warriors team, and B, I mean, he had players around him in the NBA Finals like Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet who really, really stepped up in that final series to win that series against a depleted due to injuries Warriors team that, I mean, they had until game 6, not the end of game 6. Klay Thompson, they didn't have Kevin Durant, who's arguably the most talented player of all time. So I think that Jimmy's run is more impressive. I'll get into more of my information later, but Arjun, what do you want to say about this?
I'm going to go on first in quite some time, Isaac. So, guys, no interruptions, all right? I'm just letting you know. I do not – just no interruptions for like a minute. All right. I think Kawhi had a more impressive run. You want to know why? Because I think Kawhi had a more impressive run, but I think the Heat had a more impressive run. They had a more impressive run. The Heat had a more impressive run than the Raptors, but Kawhi had a more impressive solo run.
But get on,
Jimmy Butler. You want to know why I think that? Look at the stats. The stats prove that Kawhi led in steals, points, and rebounds. He had a much higher player efficiency, and he had a much higher advantage in pretty much every stat. Now, Jimmy Butler only led Kawhi in stats, other than he led him in assists, true shooting, and turnovers. Now, I think that, and also Kawhi had a much higher box plus minus, and he had a higher win share percentage. Now, let's look at the stats. The Heat had 6 guys averaging over 10 points, 4 guys averaging over 15. This is an absolute spurt. I'm not giving Jimmy Butler credit. I want to give him credit, but I got to give credit to the other Heat players. The other Heat players are the reason why they went that far. The Raptors only had 2 other guys averaging plus 10 points. Everybody else, they had literally 4 guys averaging under 40%, including Fred VanVleet. Now, you're talking about the finals. I get it. They stepped up in the finals. Now, I'm looking at the finals right now. Everybody maintained the same numbers. Kawhi, of course, averaging 30. Pascal Siakam averaging 20. Lowry, 15. VanVleet averaged 14 on 44% shooting. I don't know if it's a huge spurt. That was a jump. Now, guys, Isaac, I'll let you get in.
Let me stop you there. You've
wait, no, Ben, let Isaac get in.
Really quickly, I think it's Jimmy Butler because he had less pieces around him. He was able to fill every spot where they needed him. He was able to step back and let other guys, take up a bigger role. He was able to score a 40-point triple-double. I'm going to give it to you guys. You clearly have you're way more passionate about this topic. But I think it's Jimmy Butler just because, not statistically, just because from a leadership standpoint, he took a young team that really just didn't have any collective and was able to bring them to the next level.
All right, Arjun. Yeah.
Incredible leader.
You came in with the most basic just unapologetic stats that really don't matter that much, because when you also looked at like first, second, Eastern Conference Finals, those types of rounds, but when you look at it, Jimmy Butler on paper did have a deeper team, but he also had less weapons that could take over the games. Like I'm pretty sure VanVleet had like a 2 or more.
Duncan Robinson was capable of taking over a game.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying he had none, but like Kawhi had way more. Pascal, he had Fred VanVleet, he had Kyle Lowry. Those players were capable of taking over games, and they did.
So were the Heat. The Heat had plenty of players.
No. I'm talking about the finals. I'll let you talk for a long time. Let me talk. So, I mean, when you look at the playoff runs, you look at Jimmy Butler. He accounted for 52% of his team's points. That includes points and assists. So when you look at it, aside from a leadership standpoint, I'll get to that later. But when you look at what he does collectively, he doesn't just score. He put up multiple 30 or 40-point triple-doubles in the finals and in the playoffs. But the big point of that was he got the rebounds. He got the assists. He got his teammates going. That's the reason he didn't score 30 points every game, was because he doesn't want to score 30 points every game. In the first 2 quarters, he gets his teammates going. When you watch him play basketball, when you hear anybody who actually watches him play basketball talk about him, he tries to get his teammates going in the first quarter, and that's what he did, especially in this playoff run, except for in that game 3. In that game 3, you saw when he was like, you know what, cut the bullshit. This is my team for this game. This is my team. Nobody else scores, but also he did get 10 assists in the meanwhile. He had 40 points, and he did great. He didn't even shoot a fucking three-pointer, and that was amazing. But when you look at
Kawhi didn't have the choice for the most of the playoffs. He didn't have a choice. Jimmy did. For most of the playoffs, he had to carry the load. That's what makes it more impressive.
Jimmy, it wasn't like Jimmy was like, I have great teammates. I don't have to do shit. He was like,
no, I'm not saying that.
I have to get these rookies and second-year undrafted players like Duncan Robinson going so I can, and also Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, Kendrick Nunn, all those guys on the team that weren't injured were super inconsistent. Bam Adebayo, super inconsistent, couldn't put up a playoff performance in 2 straight games for his life. He couldn't put up consistent numbers for his life. But then when you look at Goran was out, Bam was out for 2 games, and he still won those games, or he won one of those games. And then you look at just the team completely. He was like, okay, I have to pass. I have to get these guys that are
first, Ben. Second, now I'm going to stop you right here.
Going because they don't have any playoff experience. They're going against LeBron James, and he still managed to put up 30, 40 points consistently in the NBA Finals against LeBron James. That's why I think it's more impressive. What do you have to say?
I'm not saying that Jimmy Butler is I'm saying that what I'm saying is that Jimmy Butler is a better teammate than Kawhi. I agree with that. I agree he's a better teammate. I know he had to get that, but it's more impressive that Kawhi didn't have those options. Kawhi didn't. He couldn't. He couldn't. He had to keep. It's more impressive is that he kept his foot on the gas pedal. He kept going. In my opinion, he kept going. What's wrong with that?
Are you saying Jimmy Butler, who was literally sacked out in Game 4?
Yeah, about to
sacked out, bending over because he carried the finals of the team, playing every minute, every game.
Yeah, the finals. But guess what? He's finals. This guy had like 10 points against the Boston Celtics. You can't tell me he had some games that were bad. Kawhi couldn't afford any of those games, but Jimmy Butler could.
Kawhi Leonard, he didn't have bad games. And also, Jimmy Butler didn't have bad games. Jimmy Butler had games where he wasn't as assertive because he let his teammates get rolling.
He had bad games. I'm not saying that's bad. Everybody has bad games.
Which made him play like a better basketball player, Arjun, which means that not only shoot, but he passed. He was like, okay, you know what? Tyler Hero, he's made 5 straight 3-pointers. I'll keep on dishing to him. Duncan Robinson, I've gotten him going. I'm going to feed it to him. I don't have to be the first option, and it's not because I have more talent.
I'm not blaming him.
Because I know how to get my teammates going.
I'm saying he did the right thing. He did the right thing, but it's not as impressive. It's not as impressive. He did the right thing. If I were Jimmy, I'm so glad he did that. I would do that. He did the best thing.
Kawhi, but when you watch basketball, you know it's more impressive for Jimmy Butler.
Jimmy Butler's strength in scoring. Jimmy Butler's compassion is more impressive than Kawhi's clutchness in his scoring and his better efficiency.
Arjun, this is my final point, and then we'll end the episode after this. But my final point on this would be just the fact that Kawhi Leonard took the 2 seed in the East, the 2 seed, compared to the 4 seed that Jimmy Butler took of rookies in the playoffs.
Rookies who scored over 15 points per game.
You took a team that, not only were they a 2 seed, they were a 2 seed with Kawhi doing his classic load management the entire season and barely played with the team. You're looking at a team that was a 2 seed this year without Kawhi Leonard, with a better record without Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, but Ben, exactly. He didn't carry the load. I'm going to say one more thing. I'm going to end my closing arguments because we did. I think we both said what we want to say. Basically, I'm not saying that Jimmy Butler's run wasn't impressive. What he did. He got his teammates the ball. He got them going. I think that's the best thing you can do as a player. That's the best thing that you can do. But the way I see it, I see what Kawhi did. The way Kawhi took his team to the finals, I get he had a weakened Warriors team, but it's still a team with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. He also had to go through a Bucks team, which I think was better. A Bucks that last year, that team he had to face is better than the Bucks team that he had to face. Not discrediting what they did. But he also did have his fair share of competition. He went up against the 76ers team. So, yeah, that's
all right. That'll be it for us today. You can catch us later. Get our merch at linktree.com/half/court/heave. And we'll see you later.